Remember back in grade school when we used to color an image just by outlining the image with a dark color and then filling it in? No rules, no pressure, just the simple thrill of picking up a crayon and coloring. It's probably where our love for coloring truly started. Somewhere along the way, we forgot about that. The joy of coloring got buried under the weight of perfection. I'm guilty of getting lost in shadows and midtones, which is perfectly okay. But today I'm here to remind you coloring for you is about rediscovering those simple joys you might have forgotten about. Let's forget about the rules, embrace the process, and bring that carefree creativity back. You don't need to be an artist to color for joy. You just need to enjoy the moment, one color at a time. Hi, everyone. I'm Mindy Eggen, and welcome to my channel. Now, the image that I'm going to be using today is the flowering friendship image from Gina K Designs. I loved all the open space of the flower and the artist drawn lines. I'm going to start with a piece of 80-pound white cardstock that I'm placing into the bottom corner of my stamp wheel 2.0. This cardstock measures 5.5 by 8.5, so it's going to be perfect to fit my large image. I place that down onto the cardstock and then I'm going to pick it up with my stamp wheel. Now, on the stamp wheel, down in the bottom center is a little hole in the grid, and I use that to always make sure that the top plate is in the exact same position every time. So I flip my plate over and I'm going to ink up the image with an alcohol friendly ink. Any type will do as long as it says alcohol marker friendly. This one happens to be the Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink. So I'm going to stamp my image down and I am going to stamp it multiple times to make sure that I can really see all the lines and the detail of the floral image. Once I have that stamped down, I'm going to leave my stamp in the stamp wheel because I want to restamp this later on. That's going to be totally optional. Now, because I stamped it multiple times, I am going to take a heat tool to it and make sure that that ink is nice and dry so I don't risk smearing it when I start coloring. I picked out three colors from my OLO Marker collection, and I will have those listed here at the top of the screen and also over on my blog if you ever want to reference those at any point. Now, when I kind of think back to when I used to color in grade school, what I used to do is I would color all around the inside line of the image, like I'm doing here on this one petal. Then I would go into the center with either just a lighter hand or maybe a lighter shade of crayon. Sorry if I said marker, but I meant crayon. And I loved doing it. I didn't think about shadows. I didn't think about light and dark and just all of the rules. And as much as I love adding shadows and making things look as realistic as possible, sometimes people just want to jump in and color and not be intimidated by all of the rules that can go along with coloring. So, that process that I used to do back in grade school is exactly how I'm going to color in my floral images today. I am using a three marker color combination. I did choose these particular markers specifically because they go well together. They're kind of lined up on the chart next to each other. So I know they're not going to be too drastic, but I am still going to have a little bit of definition, just like I would if I had used a crayon. When I use the Olo markers, I do leave them uncapped while I'm coloring so I can quickly go through all of the colors. Your markers will not dry out, and it's actually better this way that you're not popping your cap on and off because that can create pressure in the marker and that will risk your marker bleeding out onto your project. I'm going to take each one petal by petal. I start with my darkest shade and just outline the outer edge of the petal, come in with the next shade right next to it, and then fill in the rest of the area with the lightest color that I have. I'm also taking that darkest marker and literally just drawing right over those artist drawn lines. I'm not worrying about flicks. I am not worrying about necessarily blending it out, so to speak. I do want to make sure it's not super drastic of a line, so to speak, but I'm not overly concerned with where are the shadows? Is this the right spot? Is this where the sunlight would be hitting it? I'm not worried about it. I'm literally just coloring in the lines with those three colors. I did leave all of the coloring in here if you're interested. It is going to be sped up. I will put on some relaxing music. I know some people really enjoy watching coloring videos. I will pop back in a little bit to talk about how I finished this card design off, but I hope you'll stick around for the very end because I am going to share another bonus card project using this same image, but just a few different colors instead of these bright purples. And I will share that color combination at the end of the video, and that will also be on my blog. So if you are looking at picking up some OLO markers and not really sure where to start, this and well, and you like purples, this will be a great starting point for you. So I'm going to pop some music on and I will see you in a little bit. Enjoy the process. Now that my coloring is all completely done, I love how this came out. So even though I kind of went back to my roots when it came to coloring, it still is showing some definition because I chose a 3 marker color combination. You can also get away with a 2 marker color combination. So I place this back into my stamp wheel in that exact same spot. I'm going to ink up the image once again with that jet black ink, and I'm going to stamp over the top of it. Now, I know this can be scary because if something shifted or maybe you didn't put it back in the right spot, but most cases I have had good luck with this and it just brings those dark lines back to the forefront. I'll then line up the coordinating die, hold it down with a low tack tape, and I'm going to die cut it out with my Gina K Designs Intri-Cut Die Cut Machine. I have the platform here. I'm going to place my cardstock panel so that the die is going to cut up into the cutting mat. I do have my setting at die cut and 0. I had also gone ahead and die cut out another piece using white cardstock, and I'm just going to layer these two together using my Connect glue. This is just going to add a little bit of stability to my image and also give it a little bit of lift. Now, I do already have my design in mind, and what I needed to do at this point was pick out a color cardstock. And I was debating between the Wild Lilac and Eggplant. So, the Wild Lilac is from Gina K Designs, Eggplant is from Concord and Ninth. Looking at it now, I really love that Wild Lilac, but I just was in the mood for a dark, dramatic background to really make my image pop. So I did choose the eggplant from Concord and Ninth. I'm placing that onto my stamp wheel, and then I am going to use, I think this is snowy background. I like to call it the splatter background because even though it's meant to be snowfall, it just creates the most perfect splatter without having to splatter, and I do absolutely love the splatter, but sometimes this is just easier to do and less messy. So I am inking it up with a white pigment ink, and I'm going to stamp that down. I actually stamped it a couple times because when I stamped it on the eggplant cardstock, I gave it like a blue tint. I was quite surprised. It wasn't really what I expected, but I left it. And now at this point, I am going to bring in a die from the Master Layouts 2 die set from Gina K Designs. I am going to trim it out with this particular die because it does give a stitched edge. Now, it's not super noticeable, I don't think, in the finished card project, but I do think that stitching just adds a little bit of something extra to our card front without it taking over the design. Now, here is where my design is sitting at this point and what I want to do. It trimmed it down so it had a nice white border going around the edge. And then I have this little craft stacks from Spellbinders that I have filled with different bits and pieces and sentiments from the latest Gina K Designs release. One night I just kind of sat and stamped and die cut a bunch of them out. So I do have this one ready. I like that thinking of you. I thought it just kind of fit perfectly. It worked well with the flowers. And I did have it already stamped and die cut, but I'm going to use my mini Intri-Cut Die Cut machine and some scratch paper to die cut that out two more times, just so that way I can layer them together. So for that, I like to use my reverse tweezers and the liquid glue, and then I can add that final stamped one on top. I'm going to add a bit of dimension to the back of that stamped panel. So I'm using some foam tape and my Spellbinders shears to trim that out. And then I'm going to remove the backing of that foam tape and add it to my white card front. So the white cardstock is measuring 4¼ by 5½. Then I'm going to add liquid glue to the back of my large floral image, and I'm going to add that to my card front. Now, this image would be absolutely perfect for a 5x7 card, but I really do like have things kind of extending off the edge of the cardstock. I am going to trim those extra edge pieces or those edges off so that it fits nicely in an A2 size envelope. But you could absolutely leave those pieces on there and just get a bigger envelope. Now, here I went ahead, added my sentiment with the liquid glue. I'll trim off the edges, but again, you could leave those there if you prefer and just get that bigger envelope. And that's going to be this particular finished card project using those vibrant purples, which again, I will have all of this listed over on my blog, and all the supplies used are down in the video description if you're interested in anything I used today. And then here is another one I did. So this one is using the BV collection. Again, I will have that listed for you if you're interested in this color combination. Very ethereal, I guess is the word I would want to use. Very soft and whimsical. So there you have it, friends. Alcohol markers don't have to be intimidating. Just like when you were a kid with your crayons, it's all about having fun with the process. Don't worry about blending perfectly. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about finding joy in what you create. So grab those markers, embrace the mess, and start coloring for you.